What's up guys, Brad here from Piney Grove, and Piney Grove is looking a little shaggy because we've been working on that gravel driveway behind me for a big part of the summer, and we've let our grass get out of hand. So last weekend Deb and I were out here mowing together with the L3901 and the finish mower and also the zero turn mower, and we got a lot of this done behind me, but all of this pasture over here hasn't been done. So that's what we're going to work on today, is getting the rest of that pasture cut. But before we get to that, we're going to walk to the back of the property and check on the soybean field. It's a 1 acre field of Eagle Forward soybeans that we planted for the deer. We've been protecting it with a 3D deer fence, and I just took the fence down last week. So let's go back there and see if they're in there and eating on it. What's behind me is the front half of our 20 acres, and I'm now walking to the back half. Now, a lot of times in the fall, I'll come back here and be real quiet, and I can come around the corner here, sometimes catch deer out here feeding in the field. You wouldn't be able to see them in those tall soybeans. So just for reference, I'm 6 foot tall, and I'll go stand next to this really tall soybean, and it's right up to my shoulders. And that's the way most of this field is, especially up here on this end. It gets more sandy down there, so they're not as tall, it's not as good a soil. But this is what we're able to grow with that cheap 3D deer fence that I've shown in a couple of past videos. So these Eagle soybeans you can actually spray and it won't hurt them, but we just haven't had a chance to spray. I do have a trail cam in here I want to get out because right now it's not really taking good pictures, and I want to put it out here and catch the deer as they come in and out of the plot. It's a weedy mess. I really should get in there and spray. I just don't have time. We already talked about all the mowing we need to do. So there's just no moisture in the soil, but yet those Eagle soybeans are still doing well. You can see this is just powder coming up here. You'd expect after 4 inches of rain a couple of weeks ago, there'd be a little bit of moisture in here. If you want to see that 3D deer fence, I'll put some links up at the end of the video. And the one thing you can do to help any of your favorite content creators out there is to not only watch their video in its entirety, but also to click the links to another video right after you've watched one of theirs, and that'll send YouTube a signal that their content is good, and YouTube will spread it out. So ever since we've shown the way that we fuel our tractor, which is putting a board across the loader and then just letting the fuel can sit here and drain, and what's amazing to me is that people feel the need to comment of, one, I wear gloves just because I don't like the smell of diesel fuel in my hands or on my body. Two, that I'm too lazy to hold up the fuel tank, which these fuel tanks drain slow, so there's other things I could be doing while that thing's draining. And then three, my tractor's dumb because my fuel tank's in the center of the hood. I didn't design that, so you're gonna have to take that up with Kubota. While that's fueling up, I'll take a few minutes and grease everything. All the spindles take a little bit of grease, and so do these casters. It was greased last week, but it doesn't hurt after mowing a couple acres to grease it again. First thing I'm gonna do is take off the bucket. I'd like to take off the whole loader. I don't feel like messing with that. And with the heat, sometimes it's hard to get the hydraulic lines back on. The reason I took that bucket off is that'll be less weight hanging off the front of the loader and wearing out my pins up there. Like I said, the best thing to do would be to take the whole loader off. I just feel like that'll probably take me too much time and slow me down from getting to mowing. That's the strip that was left when it started raining last weekend. But you can see how tall the grass is over here. Another thing you can see is just how well this finish mower cuts up this thatch. So if this was cut with a brush hog, this would leave windrows of grass, and then the grass would have trouble growing up through it. But by using a finish mower, it chopped it up pretty fine. I think what I'm gonna have to do is cut that and then come back and recut this from last week. We're still evaluating if the finish mower is the right mower for us out here because we can't stay on top of our mowing and it gets tall, and finish mowers are not made for tall grass. But let me show you how good this mower is doing in this really tall grass and let you see how tall the grass is in comparison to the tractor. You can see the tractor there, and the grass is as high as the rear tire in places. And it's pretty thick too, especially down here in these lower areas where it gets more moisture. But you can see what this tractor is having to deal with, and this is a 40 horsepower tractor, and that's a 6 foot wide finish mower, And the tractor's not bogging down, but I'm going real slow, and it's giving me a clean cut, but it's having to deal with so much thatch. So leave your comments and thoughts down below. What is the best implement to cut this pasture when it gets this tall if you're not going to cut it for hay? A brush hog would cut it faster, but leave more stringy residue and leave it windrowed, which makes the new grass harder to grow up in. You see what a finish mower is doing here. And I don't have a flail mower, but I think a flail mower would do a lot like the finish mower, except maybe the flail mower would allow you to drive a little quicker. It's 2.5 minutes to do each one of these passes, and I don't know what that equates into acreage, but this section that we're doing right now is probably right at 3 acres that we have to mow. Tractor's wide open RPMs. I'm not even running it at 540. I'm running it a little faster than that. So I'm getting good blade tip speed, and I'm getting good clean cuts on the grass, and I'm getting it mowed close, and that's going to help the grass be healthier because it'll send out more stolons. This is Bahia grass, and when it gets tall and stemmy, it stops sending out stolons. When you cut it short, it tends to thicken itself. So the whole time I'm second guessing, I'm also thinking, man, I really like the way it looks. I think the title to this video is gonna be, will a finish mower mow thick grass? I think the answer is yes. Well guys, I've been mowing for about an hour since that last segment and got a lot done, but then I had a big scare. I had an EM light come on the dash of the tractor, and it's a picture of the engine with EM on it. I thought maybe emissions, but I looked it up and I saw the tractor temperature was coming up a little, and I knew that the radiator was starting to get clogged with debris, just dust and grass seeds and stuff. So I knew I had to blow that out. But I didn't know how that was related to this light. Well, anyway, the way these Kubota tractors work, if they are operating too hot, their emissions don't work correctly, and then they put on the EM light, and the EM light tells you to cool the tractor down. So I cleaned off the radiator screen, blew all that out, and the EM light went off, and we're good to go now. We can finish mowing. We rely so much on that tractor to maintain this property, not only maintain it, but get it ready to live on. And all I could think was, here we go. You know, I got a broke tractor. It's gonna cost me thousands of dollars. And worse than the cost to repair it is the fact that you may be without your tractor for a month or two because they're just so backlogged, especially this time of year with repairs. But it sure made me appreciate the fact that we have a reliable tractor. And as I'm standing here, here's a big old snake that just popped out from my feet. He's not poisonous. A snake will scare you. Imagine picking a cucumber or something and that thing were to pop out. I don't see that he has a viper type of head or anything. It's a corn snake or a rat snake. And John Ritter, if you're watching, that little piece of video was just for you, man. I know how much you love snakes. Look how much thatch is here. And this is a problem. I mean, I've run over this a couple times. It actually bogs the mower down when you go over the clippings again. But it's just gonna be hard for the grass to come up through here. And this is what happens when we don't stay on top of it out here. Now this definitely could be turned into another 100 bales of hay like the first time, but we're not always gonna need, say, 400 bales of hay a year, because you could probably cut this 4 times, if not 5 times a year down here in Florida. So we just gotta stay on top of our mowing. All right guys, some final thoughts about a finish mower. Number one, I love the way that it leaves that finished look, that the grass is cut evenly and that it's 6 foot wide instead of 5 foot wide like the brush hog. What I don't like is it's a high maintenance item. I've greased this thing 3 times today, and maybe I didn't have to, but I felt like the casters were starting to get dry of grease, so I pumped them full again. And also it's got 3 spindles. Brush hog only has the 1 shaft that comes down from the gearbox, and I've got a brush hog that's 15 years old. I've abused it and I've never had any issue with it. Nothing wrong with these spindles, but that's 3 spindles to replace instead of 1 shaft with a brush hog. There's pulleys and there's also a belt. Those things will have to be replaced eventually. And the actual casters, there's 4 of them and they rotate around an axle, and there's no bearings there. The only thing keeping that rotating or free is grease, and they're greased up, but they're already wobbling. It's a used mower, so it's got some hours on it, but I can see that at least one already has to have the center of the rim or the wheel replaced. So it's a high maintenance item, and that I'm not gonna appreciate, but I do appreciate the look that it's given me, and if Deb and I stay on top of our mowing, we'll be able to go a lot quicker. I guess that's another thing, is that you can't go fast in tall grass. It'll cut tall grass, and it'll do a good job, it'll process it, and because it's rear discharge, it doesn't leave it too clumpy, but you got to go slow. So in order to get that speed, we're going to have to keep the grass lower so that we can, you know, fly across it and make time, which is the reason I got a 6 foot finish mower, was to do it fast. So I didn't gain anything in speed today, but what I did get was a much better look. But that's going to wrap up today's video. We'll throw a couple links up here to some of our other videos. And remember, YouTube likes it when you watch another one of our videos right after you've watched this one. So check one of them out. But until next time, y'all take care out there. And remember, life's short, tractor hard.